Welcome gamers, it's time for another update on the Ultimate Trophy Hunters Challenge. I got quite a bit of progress to report this time with a number of platinums, another 100% game and quite a few cleared off the backlog, as well as quite a few of the other challenges slowly being ticked off now. So let's get into it straight away with details of the first platinum I've earned. First up we have BDSM, Big Drunk Satanic Massacre, which is a game I had on my backlog. Made by indie developer Big Way Games back in 2019, this isometric twin-stick shooter with heavy RPG elements to it is a very fun game that is both fairly short at around 4 hours and a pretty easy 3 out of 10 according to the PSN Profiles guide. The game sees you play as Satan's son Lou when he wakes up with a bit of a hangover in a bar in hell, after what you can only imagine to have been a very indulgent night. He then finds that he needs to go on a quest to save some of the hottest demonesses from the clutches of an evil clown known as Big Whack. Along his journey through hell, Lou comes across more powerful weapons to help him defeat a whole host of different and despicable enemies that are determined to thwart his progress. But as he rescues each of the demonesses, they each reward him with some intimate alone time with them. I found this game to be incredibly fun to play, with some extremely funny dialogue splattered across the story. The game is a very specific type of humour however, so if you're easily offended by humour of a more sexual nature, then this is perhaps not the game for you. I decided to play through the game without the use of a guide and ended up missing a trophy due to not finding and interacting with one of the demonesses. As the game is fairly short and enjoyable though, a second playthrough, noting what I'd missed from the guide, was not a problem for me. My next challenge was a bit of a surprise to me. I started Doki Literature Club Plus with the intention of lining this romance themed game up for my Valentine's Day challenge. But I was also very intrigued as to why this 2021 visual novel by indie developer Team Salvato also carried the horror theme. I ended up enjoying the game so much that I earned the platinum on the PS5 and then replayed the game again straight after on the PS4. Leaving one last trophy on that stack for the Valentine's Day challenge. After hearing such great things about the game from a number of different sources who all recommended a blind playthrough, I decided to do just that and avoided even looking at a guide or other reviews just to ensure my experience was spoiler free, which I also encourage anyone else interested in playing should do as well. The game follows the protagonist as he joins the local literature club at high school at the request of a lifelong friend. With him being the only boy in a now group of 5 club members, the visual novel is played out conversing with them all and writing poetry, choosing words from a random list of keywords that each will impress a different girl in the group to construct a poem that will gain various different reactions depending on the decisions you make. The story is also split up into a number of different acts, and what seems like a very standard plot of a bunch of girls vying for the attention of the only boy in the club during the first act soon sees the plot taking a much darker tone, hence it having been given the horror theme. However, I can't really say anything else about the game now without spoiling it, so instead let's move on to my next game, which is Donut County. This 2018 puzzle game by indie developer Ben Esposito and published by Annapurna, sees you playing as a sinkhole. Yes, you heard me correctly, you play as a hole in the ground where the basic gameplay is to swallow up items to make yourself into a bigger hole so that you can then swallow up even bigger items. Now, there is also a story attached to the game, but to all intents and purposes, the story is really just white noise in the background to the extremely fun gameplay. The game itself is an extremely easy 1 out of 10 and only takes about 3 hours to complete on a blind playthrough. It also has no missable trophies, as you can mop up anything you missed using chapter select. However, as short and easy as the game may be, it's an extremely fun and well made game that's highly enjoyable and recommended. Next up on my list is another game on my backlog called Songbird Symphony. This 2019 game by indie developer Joystick Studios is a cross between a platformer and a music rhythm game. The story is quite simple as you play as a little chick that sets off on a quest to discover who he is and who his parents are after having grown up only knowing his uncle, The gameplay sees you traversing a 2D platforming landscape as you solve some basic puzzles and progress through the various different areas. Along the way, you take on an additional quest set by a wise old owl who agrees to help you find out where you come from if you agree to help him find some missing musical notes, which you do by battling against various different other bird bosses in a rhythm game whereby you learn the new note upon beating the boss. I originally started this game 2 years ago for a different challenge I was taking part in, where I only needed to earn a couple of trophies, but as rhythm games are one of my weakest genres when it comes to skill, I didn't continue playing it back then. The game itself is pretty short at around 4 to 5 hours if you follow a guide for the collectibles, and it's only a 3 out of 10 difficulty, as the rhythm aspects of the boss battles are extremely forgiving. Overall, I had fun with this game, so I'm glad to have finally cleaned this up from my backlog. As I slowly chip away at my backlog games, yet another that I've now busted is Flipping Death. This 2018 game by indie developer Zoink Games is a fantasy puzzle platforming game with a unique and adorable art style. The game takes about 7 hours to complete and is an easy 2 out of 10 difficulty, but I really enjoyed my time with it and would even perhaps class it as a bit of a hidden gem for the PS4. You play as the protagonist Penny, who after her untimely death finds herself taking over the role of the Grim Reaper and has the power to possess any living body, be it human or animal, as well as the ability to read their minds, using these new abilities to solve the various different puzzles the game sets you to be able to progress. However, after discovering that someone else has possessed and taken over her body in the living world, she sets out on a quest to reclaim her body from the spirit that has stolen it. The game is extremely humorous, and the puzzles that you need to solve to progress are not too difficult and extremely fulfilling to complete. If you really get stuck, you can look at some in-game hints that show you a picture to help you try and work out what is required to be done. So although they push you in the right direction, they don't outright give you the solution. The side-scrolling gameplay sees you swapping between the afterlife and the living world as you possess and control some truly unique and funny characters to enable you to solve the various different puzzles required to be able to continue. This rather unique gameplay mechanic, along with the gorgeous art style and constant humour, provides a really fun gameplay experience and one that I'm very happy to recommend you all to play. My sixth and final platinum for this update is on Jurassic Pinball. This 2022 pinball game by developer Enjoy Up Games is one of the many different themed pinball games that they have released. There is not much I can say about the game, as at the end of the day everybody knows what pinball is, and outside of the theme there is nothing different about this game to any other pinball game. I used to love playing real pinball back in the day at the old school arcades, but I've never really been a big fan of video pinball. However, being that this is one of the specific genres that I'm required to complete for the challenge, I decided to get this one done and out of the way nice and early. It wasn't particularly long or hard, so it's good to have it done and out of the way. The last game for this update is Stories Untold. This is another game that is for the 100% no platinum part of the challenge and was recommended to me. Released in 2020 by indie developer No Code, it's a science fiction horror game that is made up of 4 different but interconnected stories. The first 3 stories play very differently, with the first being like an old 80s style text adventure, the second story being a game of manipulating various equipment to run different experiments, and the third having to decode and solve some information you're given, which you then need to input the result into a terminal to be able to progress. The final story, however, takes the gameplay elements from all 3 of the previous stories and mixes them all up as you play out the final part and discover how all the stories are connected and what the overarching moral of the story is. It all makes for a very interesting and pretty unique game experience that I enjoyed playing through. Let's now have a quick glance over the update spreadsheet. So looking over, you'll see that I've started filling in all the various challenges that have now been completed. I won't go in full detail, link in the description for this spreadsheet if you want to go and have a look yourselves at all the specific games and specific challenges that have been completed. All I'd say is that the games I've filled in as sort of placeholders, they're not set in stone. I could change them out at any time, but I wanted to have some sort of rough plan to make sure that I can at least be having something in mind. There's a few games that I've not put down for certain challenges. That's because I've still not decided on what games will be eligible and what I want to play. If you have any recommendations for games that you could suggest for any of these, then please add in the comments. Very much appreciated. You can see that I've added all of my currently earned platinums, and that's bringing my current platinum count to 8 for the year so far and for the challenge. Looking also over at my summary page, you can see I'm making good progress on a lot of the challenges. Also a very quick look at my PSN profiles account. That just confirms the different games that I've been playing and platinum them since the last update. So some decent progress made so far in this challenge. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the video, as that really helps to support the channel. And please take care and look after yourselves. See you in the next one.